The morning sun streamed through the massive windows of JFK's Terminal 4, casting long shadows across the polished floors as passengers filed through Gate 7. Sarah Chin adjusted her crimson Elite Airways scarf with practiced precision, her movements refined by 15 years of first-class service. She had learned to read passengers like a skilled fortune teller reads palms. Designer luggage, luxury watches, and pressed suits were the telltale signs of her usual first-class clientele. The pre-boarding announcement crackled through the speakers as Sarah performed her final checks in the cabin. Everything had to be perfect. The angle of each pillow, the temperature of the hand towels, the careful arrangement of magazines. She took pride in cultivating an atmosphere of exclusivity in first class, something her regular passengers had come to expect. When Maya Richardson appeared at the cabin entrance, Sarah's carefully maintained smile flickered for just a moment. Maya moved with an unhurried grace, pulling a well-worn leather backpack that had clearly seen its share of adventures. Her dark curls were gathered in a casual bun, and her vintage Pink Floyd t-shirt seemed to clash with the pristine first-class cabin's aesthetic. Sarah watched as Maya consulted her boarding pass, making her way to seat 2A, one of the best spots in first class. The contrast was stark. In the adjacent seat, a silver-haired man in an Italian suit was already sipping sparkling water and scrolling through the Wall Street Journal. He barely glanced up as Maya settled in beside him, pulling out a tablet and a thick folder filled with documents bearing various corporate logos. Sarah's internal alarm bells were ringing. In her experience, first-class passengers didn't dress for comfort. They dressed to belong. She developed an instinct for spotting passengers who'd somehow slipped through the cracks, whether through booking errors or loyalty program glitches. As she watched Maya tap through her tablet with perfectly manicured nails, Sarah convinced herself that this must be one of those cases. Other passengers filtered into first class. A tech entrepreneur with his latest gadgets spread across his seat, a celebrity chef who regularly flew this route, and a senior partner from a Manhattan law firm who always requested extra pillows. It all fit the pattern Sarah had come to expect. Maya, despite her quiet confidence and focused demeanor, stood out like a splash of watercolor in a black-and-white photograph. Sarah busied herself with pre-flight preparations. All while keeping one eye on seat 2A, she noticed how Maya pulled out a sleek laptop adorned with various company stickers, setting up what appeared to be a mobile office. There was something about her methodical organization and the way she commanded her space that gave Sarah a moment's pause, but she quickly dismissed it. After all, she had developed a sixth sense for these situations. As the final boarding call echoed through the gate, Sarah straightened her uniform and prepared to address what she saw as an obvious mistake. She'd handled similar situations countless times before, always with a blend of authority and manufactured sympathy that usually prevented any scene from developing. What she didn't realize was that this interaction would fundamentally change not just her career, but the entire airline's approach to customer service. The cabin door closed with a decisive thunk, and Sarah took a deep breath. In her mind, she was simply maintaining the standards her premium passengers expected. She had no way of knowing that her next actions would set in motion a chain of events that would reshape airline policy and challenge everything she thought she knew about first-class service. Sarah's heels tapped a precise rhythm against the carpet as she approached seat 2A. She perfected the art of the professional confrontation, a skill she considered essential for maintaining first-class standards. Her smile was practiced, a careful blend of authority and artificial warmth that usually proved effective in such situations. "Excuse me, ma'am," Sarah began, lowering her voice to avoid drawing attention, though several nearby passengers had already begun watching with poorly concealed interest. "I believe there might be some confusion with your seating assignment. Would you mind if I double-check your boarding pass?" Maya looked up from her tablet where she'd been reviewing quarterly projections for Elite Airways' parent company. Her expression remained neutral, but a slight arch of her eyebrow betrayed her recognition of the situation unfolding. She'd experienced this before, the polite questioning, the subtle implications, the assumed authority. Of course, Maya replied, her voice carrying the quiet confidence of someone who'd closed billion-dollar deals over breakfast. She retrieved her boarding pass, which clearly showed seat 2A in first class, along with her Platinum Elite status card. Everything should be in order. Sarah examined the documents with exaggerated thoroughness, her perfectly manicured nails tapping against the paper. The boarding pass was legitimate, but something still felt off to her. She had seen economy passengers try to upgrade themselves before, and her instincts, shaped by years of unconscious bias she hadn't yet recognized, were screaming that this was one of those cases. The silver-haired man in 2B had stopped pretending to read his newspaper, now openly watching the interaction. Other first-class passengers shifted uncomfortably in their seats, some recognizing the undertones of the situation, others simply annoyed by the disruption to their pre-flight routine. "I apologize, but I'll need to verify this with the gate," Sarah persisted, her smile growing slightly strained. "We've had some system issues today." It was a lie, but one she'd used before when needed. Sometimes our computer assigns seats incorrectly. Maya sat up straighter, her fingers still resting on her tablet. The screen displayed a confidential email about Elite Airways' upcoming board meeting, but Sarah was too focused on her mission to notice. "By all means," Maya responded, her tone measured. "Though I'm curious if you needed to verify any other passengers' seating assignments today." The question hung in the air like suspended crystal, sharp, clear, and potentially dangerous. Sarah felt a flicker of unease but pushed it aside. "It's simply protocol when we notice potential discrepancies," she replied smoothly, though no such protocol existed. A young executive across the aisle shifted uncomfortably, recognizing Maya from a recent business conference, but unable to place exactly where. He watched as Sarah pulled out her crew phone, presumably to contact the gate, though she had no intention of actually making the call. Maya used this moment to observe Sarah's body language, mentally noting every detail for the report she would eventually write. As the founder of one of the largest corporate consulting firms specializing in workplace culture, she'd seen this scenario play out countless times. The difference was, this time she had the power to create lasting change. "I'm showing a possible overbooking situation in first class," Sarah announced after pretending to consult with the gate. "We'll need to reseat you in economy for this flight. Of course, we'll be happy to refund the fare difference." The lie came easily to Sarah, cushioned by years of unchallenged authority in her domain. What she didn't realize was that this moment would soon become a case study in her own airline's training materials, though not in the way she might have expected. Maya stood with deliberate slowness, gathering her belongings while her mind raced through decades of similar experiences. As the CDO of Richardson Global Investments, she learned to transform discriminatory encounters into opportunities for systemic change. Her phone, already recording video, captured Sarah's satisfied expression as she prepared to escort Maya to economy class. "Right this way, please." Sarah gestured toward the back of the plane, her tone carrying that particular blend of condescension asked as courtesy. As they moved through the business class cabin, Maya noticed how Sarah's posture relaxed with each step away from first class, as if physically removing a perceived threat from her domain. The Elite Airways folder in Maya's hand contained documents detailing her firm's recent acquisition of a controlling stake in the airline's parent company. She had planned this flight as part of her usual hands-on approach to assessing company culture, but Sarah had unknowingly provided her with more valuable insights than she'd anticipated. They paused at row 23, where Sarah had found Maya's new seat, a middle position wedged between a man watching videos without headphones and a woman who had already claimed both armrests. "Will you apologize for any inconvenience?" Sarah said, her voice carrying no genuine remorse. "Someone from customer service will be in touch about the fare adjustment." Maya stored her laptop bag under the seat, maintaining her composure as several passengers watched the scene unfold. Her phone continued recording as Sarah assisted a white woman in yoga pants to Maya's original first-class seat, never once questioning her ticket or suggesting any system issues. From her new vantage point, Maya opened her laptop and began documenting every detail of the interaction. Her notes were precise: timestamps, direct quotes, body language observations. As an expert in corporate culture transformation, she recognized this moment as a perfect case study in how discrimination could persist, even within companies with strong diversity policies on paper. The man beside her continued watching his video at full volume, while the woman on her other side dug her elbows deeper into both armrests. Maya used their obvious discomfort to her advantage, noting how Sarah had specifically chosen this row, one of the most uncomfortable configurations on the plane. Opening her email, Maya began drafting a message to her board. Subject: Elite Airways Cultural Assessment. Preliminary findings. Initial observation confirms suspected systemic issues in customer service protocols. Witness direct evidence of discriminatory practices in premium cabin service. Requesting emergency ward meeting upon landing. Full documentation and video evidence to be presented. Recommendation: immediate implementation of comprehensive anti-bias training program, revision of service protocols, and establishment of accountability measures. Personal note was moved from first class to economy despite valid ticket and status. Incident recorded and documented. This presents an opportunity for meaningful organizational change. As Maya typed, she noticed Sarah making repeated trips through the cabin, each time watching to ensure Maya remained in her assigned economy seat. The flight attendant's scrutiny only added to the growing documentation of discriminatory behavior. A flight attendant from economy class, noticing Maya's professional demeanor and the confidential documents she was reviewing, approached with a confused expression. "Ma'am, would you like me to check if there are any other available seats? This doesn't seem right." Maya smiled warmly at the younger flight attendant's genuine concern. "Thank you, but I'll stay right here. Sometimes the best view of a problem comes from an unexpected perspective." She returned to her notes, knowing that this flight would become a turning point in Elite Airways history. 30,000 feet above the Atlantic, Maya's laptop screen illuminated the dim economy cabin with a soft blue glow. Her inbox displayed a series of urgent messages from Elite Airways board members, none of whom knew their CEO was currently experiencing their airline's service firsthand. The latest email discussed the upcoming shareholder meeting, where Maya's firm would officially announce their majority stake acquisition. In her former first-class seat, the woman in yoga pants now reclined comfortably, accepting Sarah's offer of pre-flight champagne, the same service that Maya had been denied the opportunity to receive. Maya noted this detail in her growing document, titled Elite Airways, a Case Study in Systematic Bias. Her phone buzzed with a text from her executive assistant. Board members confirmed for emergency meeting tomorrow. CFO concerned about recent customer satisfaction metrics. Maya allowed herself a small smile. Those metrics were about to become even more interesting. As Sarah passed through the cabin again, she paused to fawn over a minor celebrity in business class, her voice carrying clearly to the economy section. The contrast between this interaction and her earlier treatment of Maya was stark. Maya opened a new document and began typing. Proposed changes for Elite Airways. Implementation of blind customer service protocols. Mandatory quarterly bias recognition training. Mystery passenger program focusing on equity. Revision of seating verification procedures. Installation of body cameras for passenger interaction documentation. A notification popped up on her screen. The latest stock prices for Elite Airways' parent company. The numbers showed steady growth, unaware of the shakeup that would soon rock the corporate structure. Maya had spent months planning this undercover assessment of their recent acquisition, but she hadn't expected to gather such compelling evidence of needed change. The man next to Maya continued watching his video at full volume, unknowingly providing background noise as she reviewed confidential documents about Elite Airways' internal operations. His screen showed an action movie while Maya's displayed route profitability analyses and employee satisfaction surveys that painted a troubling picture of the airline's culture. Sarah appeared again, this time helping an elderly white man to the lavatory from first class, providing support and kindness that seemed to come naturally. Maya recorded this too, noting the disparity in service quality. Her trained eye caught every nuance: the genuine smile, the gentle touch on the elbow, the patient wait outside the bathroom door. Opening her company's secure server, Maya accessed the dossier on Sarah Chen. 15 years of service, multiple commendations for first-class customer care, and several internal awards for excellence. Yet the file also showed 3 unaddressed complaints about discriminatory treatment, each dismissed due to insufficient evidence. The irony wasn't lost on Maya that Sarah's perfect service record was about to become a perfect example of how implicit bias could corrupt even the most professional employee's judgment. But Maya learned long ago that lasting change required more than just punishment. It required understanding, education, and opportunity for growth. A ding signaled another email, this one from her diversity and inclusion team containing draft materials for next month's airline staff training. Maya began making notes in the margins, her recent experience providing invaluable insights for improving the program. The presentation's title page read, "Building an Equitable Sky, Transform Your Service, Transform Your Airline." As the flight progressed, Maya continued her documentation, knowing that every moment of this journey would serve a greater purpose. In less than 24 hours, Sarah would learn that her perfect service record had a serious blemish, one that would ultimately lead to industry-wide changes in how airlines approached customer service and equity. 3 hours into the flight, Maya's documentation had grown into a comprehensive analysis of service disparities. Her trained eye had missed a single interaction, from the way Sarah warmly chatted with certain passengers during meal service to how she tersely responded to others. The economy cabin had become Maya's observatory, providing an unfiltered view of the airline's true service culture. Sarah made another pass through the cabin, her demeanor shifting visibly as she crossed the invisible boundary between premium and economy classes. Maya watched as she stopped to assist a white businessman who had moved from economy to an empty business class seat, her response notably different from her earlier interaction with Maya. Instead of questioning his ticket, Sarah simply offered him a complimentary cocktail. "This is exactly why we implement blind customer service protocols," Maya murmured, adding to her notes. Her document had evolved into sections: observed behaviors, service inconsistencies, staff training opportunities, and recommended policy changes. The final section was growing longer by the hour. A flight attendant named James, working the economy section, approached Maya's row with genuine warmth. "Can I get you anything?" he asked, his sincere smile a stark contrast to Sarah's earlier manufactured ones. Maya noted how natural, how unpracticed his courtesy was, marking him as a potential future trainer for the new programs she was developing. "Just water, thank you," Maya replied, watching how James treated every passenger in her row with equal respect. She created a new note: identify and promote staff exhibiting consistent, unbiased service standards. From her economy seat, Maya could observe Sarah's performance in first class through the gaps between cabins. She watched as Sarah delicately placed a blanket over the sleeping yoga pants woman, now occupying Maya's original seat, with a gentleness she hadn't shown to economy passengers requesting basic services. Maya's phone continued recording snippets of interactions, each one building a stronger case for systemic change. She noted how Sarah's tone changed depending on the passenger's appearance, how her body language shifted based on assumptions, how her attention and care were distributed unequally throughout the cabin. Opening another document, Maya began drafting the framework for a new training program. The Light Airways Service Excellence Initiative. Phase 1. Recognition of unconscious bias. Phase 2. Standardization of service protocols. Phase 3. Implementation of accountability measures. Phase 4. Continuous assessment and improvement. The man beside Maya had finally fallen asleep, his video finally silent. In the quiet, Maya reflected on how this flight had provided more valuable insights than months of consultant reports and customer surveys. Sometimes, she mused, the most powerful perspective came from being underestimated. Sarah passed by again, this time pushing the duty-free cart. Maya observed how she spent extra time with certain passengers, suggesting premium products while barely pausing for others. Each interaction was another piece of evidence, another example to be used in tomorrow's board meeting. As the flight entered its final hours, Maya began organizing her notes into a presentation. The first slide read, Creating Change Through Experience, a first-hand account of service discrimination. Below it, she added Sarah's employee photo and service record, not as a target for punishment, but as a case study in how deeply ingrained biases could affect even the most experienced professionals. The cabin lights dimmed for the evening service, but Maya's laptop remained bright with purpose. Tomorrow, Sarah would learn that her actions had been observed by someone with the power to effect real change. But more importantly, she would be offered a chance to be part of that change, to transform from an example of the problem into a leader of the solution. The Elite Airways executive boardroom buzzed with nervous energy. Sarah sat at the far end of the mahogany table, her uniform pristine but her hands fidgeting beneath the surface. She'd been summoned without explanation, joining a room full of senior executives who seemed equally puzzled by her presence. The door opened and conversations died mid-sentence. Maya Richardson strode in, now dressed in a tailored charcoal suit that exuded authority. Recognition flickered across Sarah's face, followed by a wave of realization that drained the color from her cheeks. The woman she dismissed to economy class now commanded the attention of every executive in the room. Good morning, Maya began, her voice carrying the same calm confidence it had held on the flight. For those who haven't met me, I'm Maya Richardson, CEO of Richardson Global Investments, and as of last week, the majority shareholder of Elite Airways. She made eye contact with each person present, lingering briefly on Sarah. The projector hummed to life, displaying the first image. Sarah checking Maya's ticket with exaggerated scrutiny. The timestamp showed it was from yesterday's flight. Sarah's hands stopped fidgeting and went completely still. Yesterday, I experienced something that many of our passengers face regularly. Maya continued, advancing through a series of photos and video clips. What you're seeing isn't just one incident. It's a symptom of a deeper problem within our corporate culture. The room remained silent as Maya played the video of Sarah seating another passenger in what had been Maya's first-class seat. The contrast in treatment was undeniable. Several executives shifted uncomfortably in their chairs, while others took furious notes. Ms. Chen, Maya addressed Sarah directly, her tone professional rather than accusatory. You've been with Elite Airways for 15 years. Your service record shows consistent excellence in customer care. Yet yesterday you made assumptions that led to discriminatory actions. I'm curious, what made you doubt my right to sit in first class? Sarah's voice trembled slightly as she responded. I was following what I thought were standard procedures for seating verification. Even as she spoke the words, their hollowness echoed in the quiet room. Interesting, Maya replied, clicking to a new slide showing data from the past year. Because our records show that seating verification procedures were applied disproportionately to certain passengers. The data reveals a pattern that we cannot ignore. The presentation continued, displaying statistics, passenger complaints, and service disparities that painted a troubling picture. Sarah watched as her actions from yesterday became part of a larger narrative about systemic bias in the airline industry. Then Maya did something unexpected. She pulled out a chair next to Sarah and sat down. "I started as a flight attendant myself 25 years ago," she revealed, surprising everyone in the room. "I've experienced both sides of this situation. That's why I know that real change doesn't come from punishment. It comes from recognition, understanding, and a commitment to do better." The tension in the room shifted as Maya outlined her vision for transformation. "We're not here to end careers," she explained, looking directly at Sarah. "We're here to begin a new chapter in airline service. Ms. Chen, your experience makes you uniquely qualified to help us implement these changes. The question is, are you willing to be part of the solution?" Sarah looked up, meeting Maya's gaze for the first time since the meeting began. In that moment, she saw not the passenger she had wronged, but a leader offering a chance at redemption and growth. The choice before her would define not just her career, but the future of Elite Airways itself. Sunlight streamed through the windows of Elite Airways' newly established training center as Sarah stood before a room of flight attendants, her hands steadied as she queued up the video of her interaction with Maya from 3 months ago. The audience shifted uncomfortably, recognizing one of their own in a moment of unconscious bias. "3 months ago, I thought I was protecting first-class standards." Sarah began, her voice carrying the weight of hard-earned wisdom. "Instead, I was perpetuating a system of discrimination that had become so normalized I couldn't even see it." She paused, letting the words sink in. "But someone saw me, and instead of ending my career, she chose to make it mean something more." Behind her, Maya slipped quietly into the back of the room. She'd made a habit of attending these training sessions unannounced, watching as her investment in people rather than punishment began to bear fruit. Sarah clicked to the next slide, showing Elite Airways' new service protocols. "We're implementing what we call the blind service standard," she explained. "Every interaction begins with respect, not assumptions. Every ticket verification follows the same protocol, regardless of who's holding it. Every passenger deserves our best service, not our judgment." The presentation continued with real examples of bias in action, many drawn from Sarah's own experience. She'd spent weeks working with Maya to develop this program, turning her mistakes into teaching moments. The process had been humbling but transformative. "Ms. Richardson taught me something valuable," Sarah continued, unaware that Maya was in the room. "She showed me that growth doesn't come from shame. It comes from acknowledging our biases and actively working to overcome them." She shared stories of her own learning process, how she'd begun to recognize patterns in her behavior that she'd never questioned before. The training room was equipped with cameras that recorded role-playing exercises, allowing attendants to see their own unconscious behaviors. Sarah had insisted on this feature, remembering how powerful it had been to see her own actions played back in that boardroom. "Today, we're going to practice something we call service reflection," Sarah announced, dividing the room into pairs. "You'll take turns being passenger and attendant, but here's the twist. You won't know your passenger status or ticket class. You'll simply provide your best service, documented and reviewed." Maya watched from the back as Sarah moved confidently through the exercise, helping attendants identify their own biases in real time. The transformation in her former antagonist was remarkable. Sarah had taken her opportunity for redemption and turned it into a mission. The airline's new training manual, co-authored by Sarah and Maya, sat on each desk. Its title read, "Beyond First Class, Creating an Airline Where Every Passenger Matters." Inside, Sarah's incident with Maya was presented as case study number 1, complete with her own annotations and insights. As the session progressed, Sarah shared the latest customer satisfaction scores, up 40% across all cabin classes since implementing the new protocols. Employee satisfaction had risen too, as staff found themselves freed from the pressure of maintaining artificial hierarchies of service. Our goal isn't just to avoid discrimination, Sarah concluded, her voice firm with conviction. Our goal is to revolutionize what airline service means. When we remove bias from the equation, we create an environment where genuine hospitality can flourish. Maya smiled from her position at the back of the room. Sarah had become more than just an example of change. She'd become its champion. The incident that could have ended her career had instead launched a movement within the airline industry, proving that the most powerful training comes from those who have learned the lessons firsthand. 1 year after the incident, Elite Airways Flight 2547 prepared for boarding at JFK. Sarah Chen, now Director of Service Excellence, stood at the gate alongside a new class of flight attendants. They were about to demonstrate the airline's transformed approach to customer service, and Sarah had chosen this flight specifically. It was the same route where her journey of change began. Remember, Sarah addressed her team, every passenger who walks through that door is a chance to prove that excellence isn't about class divisions. It's about human connection. The young attendants nodded, wearing new uniforms that displayed a small pin reading, "Beyond First Class," the airline's new service motto. Maya Richardson boarded the plane wearing jeans and a vintage jazz festival t-shirt, deliberately echoing her outfit from that fateful day. This time, however, the response was markedly different. The lead flight attendant, trained under Sarah's new program, welcomed her with the same genuine warmth extended to every passenger. From her position near the gate, Sarah watched the interaction with pride. No double-checking of tickets, no assumptions, no subtle shifts in tone or body language. Just pure professional service. The airline's customer satisfaction scores had soared, making Elite Airways the industry leader in passenger experience across all cabin classes. The transformation hadn't been easy. Sarah had spent countless hours helping develop new training protocols, sharing her story at industry conferences, and working directly with staff to unlearn ingrained behaviors. Her openness about her own mistakes had made her an unexpectedly effective advocate for change. Maya settled into her first-class seat, observing how the attendants treated every passenger with equal respect, from the CEO in 1A to the student in economy. The airline's new body camera program, implemented after the incident, had shown a complete elimination of discriminatory service patterns. Sarah's quarterly report lay open on her tablet. The numbers told a compelling story. Complaints of discrimination down 97%, overall customer satisfaction up 85%, employee retention improved by 40%. But the most significant change couldn't be measured in statistics. It was in the culture itself. Other airlines had taken notice. Sarah and Maya had been invited to speak at international aviation conferences, sharing their story of how one confrontation had sparked an industry-wide revolution in service standards. Their training program had been licensed to 3 major carriers, with more in negotiations. As the final passengers boarded, Sarah received a message from Maya. "Your team is doing amazing work. Hard to believe it's only been a year." Sarah smiled, remembering how that difficult moment in the boardroom had become a turning point, not just for her, but for the entire airline. The flight's captain made an announcement that would have been unthinkable a year ago. "Welcome aboard Elite Airways, where every passenger is first class." It wasn't just a slogan. It was a philosophy that had transformed the airline's entire approach to service. As the plane prepared for takeoff, Sarah watched through the terminal window, reflecting on how far they'd come. The incident that could have ended her career had instead launched a movement. Maya had shown her that true leadership wasn't about maintaining artificial hierarchies. It was about recognizing opportunities for growth, even in moments of failure. The airline industry's most prestigious service award, recently presented to Elite Airways, sat in Sarah's office. But the real reward was in knowing that every passenger who boarded their planes now received the respect and dignity they deserved, not because of their ticket class, but because it was the right thing to do.